Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today's CookieCast, well, it's the Laces Out podcast, it's the NFL podcast, but it's the big one. It's the podcast before the Super Bowl. Don't get much bigger than that. We've got guests, maybe not quite as many as I promised we would have, but we still have some guests, so let's just take that. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Drop any reviews you want to drop. Share the podcast around. Word of mouth is amazing for podcasting. Right, let's get started. So here's the big one. It's CookieCast, Laces Out, Super Bowl, baby.
Recording in progress.
It's every time and I can never remember. Whose go is it?
Let's just say, because it's not the last one of the season as well, so we'll have a wrap up next week. But as it's the last one where we'll be sort of predicting stuff, why don't we sort of split it up and do bits together?
Okay.
So, welcome along, ladies and gentlemen.
It's the NFL podcast.
Laces Out, presented by CookieCast.
I absolutely promised that we would get every single guest from every single episode of the Laces Out podcast on this week. So here you can see two of them.
Well, no, for those people listening along, we'll just do cheeky roll call. So Paul and Andy, yes, they're here. Stu, yes, he's here. Mark, yes, he's here. Rob, James, who? Matt? No, okay.
I even went all out and tried to get a guest that we've not had on this season. I guess I tried to get previously that we've not had on. And as viewers on the YouTubes can see, even that didn't work. So,
technically, you could class Amy and the Stats Mistress as being on, because they've kind of been on, but not on camera. Yeah. So who knows if they're here or not?
Yeah, there was a point where I nearly sent Paul a message like, I know it's a long shot, but any chance Amy fancies appearing on camera this week? I knew there was no point in asking the Stats Mistress. She had a hot date.
I mean, I could drop the joke that apparently every single British football team has dropped this week and say that John Cena's on the podcast. But then that doesn't work because people would still be able to hear him.
It's very much a visual gag for the audio listeners there as well.
Very much a visual gag. Very much a visual gag. So, yeah.
But what I can say is, in a lot of ways, we got the most important guest. Isn't that right, Mark? Find out why shortly.
Okay.
Now that's not in any way diminishing Stu's presence. But Mark needed to be here for a very special reason.
You've locked the door, haven't you, Mark?
Yes.
Speaking of the Stats Mistress, I was like, no stats. Like, I kind of knew the answer, but was a bit like, maybe she'll surprise me with like, here's some pre-Super Bowl stats, and she was like, no, you had them last week, so what do you want? I'm like, well, like some pre-Super Bowl stats, like this team and this team, and then no, they don't exist. Like for a league that loves the stats, apparently, you know, these two teams have faced each other. You know, none of that exists. We can talk about, you know, the two quarterbacks, because that stat pops up every 4 seconds on social media. So there are no stats. If anybody tuned in solely for the stats to see what the stat mistress provided this week, might just want to knock it off. So it's going to be a little bit of a different format because that's right. It's that time. It's in fact Super Bowl. It's the Super Bowl. Predictions will be completely different. We've got a doozy of a side bet to duke out, and yeah. So this is the point in time where I hand over my job to the man who really steers the ship, as we've said before, the rudder of the podcast. Paul, where are we starting? Have you got I know Stu wanted to know what the humidity was going to be for the game. Did we manage to get that information?
We can cover that momentarily, obviously, as it is the game will be taking place in the desert. So let's be honest, it's going to be fucking hot. The reason why Andy had said that it's very important that Mark joined us this week, and that was because during the course of the season, when Mark came on and gave us his NFL season-long prediction, he gave us a regular season MVP pick of Josh Allen. As at time of recording, I do not believe the end of season awards have been done yet, so we don't know who the MVP is.
But it won't be him.
It probably won't be Josh Allen. However, his Super Bowl matchup pick was from the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs.
That sounds
and from
familiar.
the NFC, it was the Philadelphia Eagles.
I did pick it week 10, to be fair, you know.
Hey, listen, that's still a whole. Does the quick maths? 10 weeks of action. Well, 11 weeks of action that those teams would have to get through without any injuries, without any sort of mishaps or anything like that. So you still managed to absolutely nail the Super Bowl. Obviously, we will ask the questions later on, so I won't reveal what you said for your Super Bowl winner and your MVP pick. But we will get to those later on. So obviously, the first thing to say is obviously congratulations, as you were the only person to successfully nail both sides of the Super Bowl matchup pick. Toots and Matt, ironically, both Matts, went for Chiefs 49ers, and the JFG went for Eagles Bills. So those are the other three guys who got part of the game correct. Yeah, I mean, I suppose we can always have a chat about the game before we start making our picks and stuff like that. Like I said, it takes place in Arizona. It'll be the first time in a while that the team hosting the Super Bowl isn't one of the teams that's in the Super Bowl, as we've become accustomed to that for the past 2 years. But I think they kind of made sure that wasn't the case when they said, and the Super Bowl will be held in Arizona. So.
But you say that, but then did anybody expect the Eagles to be the side they've been this season? It could have been a complete surprise.
If you went back to the start of the season and looked at some of the guys from the NFL.com sort of website, strangely enough, there was a couple of people tipping up the Eagles to get to the Super Bowl, which was bizarre. Because at the start of the season, I didn't think they had a chance at winning the division, let alone getting all the way to the Super Bowl.
I think it was last week. I was saying, I mean, by week 9, I was like, hang on a minute, what's going on with the Eagles? And then like week 15 or week 16, I was like, the Eagles are still doing well. Like they were doing so well that they didn't register on anyone's radar until all of a sudden it was like, hang on a minute, they're a legit threat.
It's crazy how much, I know, like, obviously it's not just all about AJ Brown, but it's crazy how much one player traded to a team can seem to have just sparked an absolute sort of like renaissance in their fortunes and stuff like that. But them getting hit has completely turned that franchise around. And it's baffling to say, because when he was at Tennessee, it wasn't as if he was one of the top, like, you probably wouldn't have even put him in the top 10, dare I say, even 20 receivers in the league. So how he's made him that good, I've no idea.
Well, 2 seasons ago, Hertz got dropped for Wentz. That's how much he's kind of it's all come along, hasn't it?
It's strange. Obviously, when he was drafted, Hertz was drafted as a backup option. So the fact that he's gone to being legitimately in with a shout of being named MVP, and he's got the team to the Super Bowl is, kind of crazy, to be honest with you. I don't know. Is it the Super Bowl? The Super Bowl that's the closest you'd maybe say in a long time? I'd say last year the Rams were probably not heavy favourites over the Bengals, who were probably more favoured than most.
Isn't it the first time the 2 number 1 seeds have met in the Super Bowl for quite a few years?
Yeah, that was a stat that came up last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's legitimately one where I have made picks, but I wouldn't be surprised to see either team win based on stuff that we've seen during the course of the season. But you just don't know
You could put all of the picks that we've made as an accumulator and still not be surprised if the exact opposite of every choice happened, because it's that. I do think it a lot of it was coin toss kind of. Which way? What do I do? It wasn't. It didn't feel very comfortable making these choices. Put it that way.
And you do realise there, now you've said that about the accumulator and the exact opposite coming up, you do realise that the second the podcast finished, Andy's going to sit there working out what the polar opposite of every pick he's made is, and he's putting that onto the accumulator. That'll inadvertently sort of I don't know, can you sort of reverse jinx yourself?
Well, the way I normally do it, and I can tell you this from experience, the way I normally do it is work out what the opposite of my picks is, and I put that on as a bet. Then I put my picks on as a bet, so there is absolutely no way I can lose and still manage to lose year in, year out. How it's possible, who knows? It's a gift and a curse. This is why I don't gamble. Other than that, it's going to take some creative maths, but I'm sure I can get it where I don't win a single penny, yet manage to... I'll just put the Eagles to win, the Chiefs to win, as 2 separate bets, and neither of them will come in. So work that one out. It's happening.
The Super Bowl history to finish a draw.
Yeah, it was played for 9 hours, and they could never get a point ahead, and they just had to agree to shake hands and go about their business. And whilst I'm sitting there with 2 bits of paper going, what?
So then, let's. I'll tell you what. I've got Sky Bet up on my phone, so we'll go through a few of the bits. So, the early favourite for the game. Any takers?
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
The Eagles.
The Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are 5-6. The Chiefs are even money. So the Eagles are very, very slight favourites.
I'm really shocked. After obviously the NFC title game, the 49ers, let's not talk about what happened at quarterback and everything like that. But the Eagles didn't look very convincing. So I'm shocked that the Chiefs are favourite. The Eagles are favourite.
I think it was... the only thing I can assume is that they're taking it based on the fact that as an all-round team, you'd say the Eagles' defence is better than the Chiefs.
Absolutely.
And the offences are probably about level, but at the end of the day, Kansas City's got Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. So that can be the only thing I can think of, is that they're giving a slight edge to Eagles on the defence side.
Kansas City has a ever so slightly injured Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everyone thought that going into the AFC title game, and then he managed to do what he did without even looking like he was limping for most of the game. Give him 2 weeks on top of that, and the fact that he'll probably be pumped full of all sorts of fully legal items, and I imagine his foot. He probably wears, let's say, a size 12 shoe normally. He'll be playing in size 20 cleats because of all the strapping he'll have on his ankle and stuff like that. Yeah, so that, like I said, the main markets have the Eagles as the very slight favourites. On the handicap, the Eagles are -1.5. And then the Chiefs are 1.5 plus 1 on the handicap.
So does that mean that they're basically expecting there to be a field goal in it, pretty much? And
they're expecting it to be separated or like won by less than 3 points or by 3 points. So early favourite for the MVP.
Hurts then if it's.
Yeah, just going off the betting, Jalen Hurts is the 6-5 favourite. Patrick Mahomes at 5-4. If you've got a large amount of cash, I think that's a great bet. 5-4, better than even money on Patrick Mahomes at the MVP. That's a tremendous shout. You could get Travis Kelce at 9s, AJ Brown at 10s, Devonta Smith at 20s, Miles Sanders at 20s. The rest are all. Look, Hassan Reddick, 33-1 if you want to go for a defensive player. Obviously, he was the main reason why Brock Purdy didn't do anything in the NFC title game. So,
and why Josh Johnson got concussion.
Ah, well, yeah. There you go. Yeah. So it's all shaping up to be a fantastic game, regardless. So, let's get into it then. Let's go through and do a few picks, shall we, boys? So I'll come to Andy. Who have you got as the team that will win the Super Bowl?
I mean, it's going to come as no surprise that this isn't exactly the easiest of picks. That Philadelphia defense is beyond legit. You're never going to argue against it. And as I've said for years, because it was the phrase that I always heard from years ago, defense wins Super Bowls. As you've already mentioned, the Kansas City Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and at the end of the day, that is a factor that plays almost 2-1 in that sense of he is worth that bit more. Just shy of a coin toss, I've gone with the Chiefs to win.
Okay, I already have picks for myself and Stu, so I'll come to Mark. Are you in the same boat there, or are you going the other side of the coin?
Chiefs, definitely. Like you say, Patrick Mahomes factor. Defense is good for Philly, but Patrick Mahomes with 2 weeks rest on that ankle, I don't think they're going to stop him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just jump in. Myself and Stu have also both picked Chiefs. I think it's that. It is just that thing of he's only been in the league for 5 seasons. He's got to at least the AFC Championship game every single season that he's played. He's going into his 3rd Super Bowl. Yes, he's a bit banged up, but you can't, in all good conscience, back him to not do it and stuff like that. So it just makes the most sense. So I'm not surprised that we've all picked cheap. So the next thing I need is a game score. I've gone Chiefs 33, Eagles 28. I don't even know if that's a physically possible score. It must be when you factor in field goals, extra points, 2-point conversions, whatever and whatnot. I know that the Eagles can get to 28 points. That's fine. It's whether the Chiefs can get to 33. But that's what I've gone for. So I think it'll be settled by more than a field goal. Stu has gone for 24-21 to the Chiefs. So thinks it will be settled by a field goal. Mark, what would you like as your final score prediction?
27-20.
So Mark in my camp there, thinking it will be settled by more than a field goal. Andrew, what would you like me to put you down for here? Bear in mind, when we did the total number of offensive yards for the 2 title games, you went for 2,800. So I can only assume you're going to be picking this as like a 62-61 game or something like that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when you started saying your prediction, I was like, damn it, he's gone for the exact same thing. You haven't, but we're close. I've gone with 33-30. I think as far as the games up to this point, and I'm always one for a pound-for-pound player. You know, I've always said I'm happy if the Super Bowl ends 7-3, as long as that game is just an absolute shootout. Or I want it to be like that Bills Chiefs game from a couple of years back, where it was like pound for pound. I think this one has to be high scoring. You've got two teams that just put points on the board, so it has to be. And for either team to stay in it, it's got to be one team scores, the other team scores. And I think it'll just end up being whoever gets potentially that last field goal. So that's what I've gone with.
Yeah, can't disagree with any of that. So we've now got first touchdown scorer, last touchdown scorer, the MVP of the game, and then a very special pick to finish out the predictions. But before we go through the rest of those, we are going to take a very small break, and then we'll come right back and finish this puppy off. But until we get there, you sit tight. Join us again in a few moments. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress. This meeting is being recorded.
You could see the panic on his face. He didn't manage to get the mute in time, but it doesn't matter, because that lady is absolutely correct in that the recording is now in progress. So, we'd left off where we'd just gone through our game score. So, that brings us to everyone's favourite market. The first touchdown scorer. Obviously, this is where people can make a lot of money, lose a lot of money, make a little bit of money, or, you know, somewhere in between. So, Stu, I'll tell you what, before I give Stu's pick, I'll give you the market leaders in the category. So, first, last, and anytime touchdown markets. I believe the favourite at 9-1 or 7-1, was it? Sorry, 15-2. Early favourite for the first touchdown scorer is Travis Kelce. You can also get 8-1 on Jalen Hurts or Stu's pick, Miles Sanders. I have gone 33-1 shot, Patrick Mahomes as the first touchdown scorer. I will come to Andrew next, as I believe you worked out who Andrew has picked as his first.
Just go into yours and go dirt, please. Mahomes for me as well, please. I think, let's face it, everybody's going to be expecting a throw to or a handoff to. But when you're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, there's, a third of the chance is going to be the man himself. So, I
suppose the only thing that might work against us in that is if his ankle's still tricky.
It's the ankle, but it also feels like it's the kind of move to make a statement. Don't you worry about the ankle, people. Let me show you.
So that just leaves us with Mark. Mark, who would you like to select as your first touchdown scorer?
I'm going to say the Eagles defense.
Oh.
I think they're going to score first.
Nice.
Anyone in particular, or just the you can have the Eagles D, but if you want to give them a particular name,
what's the corner called? Is it Gardner or Garner?
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, I think it's going to be him. But Eagles D. Yeah.
Which you can get at 40-1 if you're interested.
Really? Interesting. See what
Worth a pound.
Yeah, I don't know whether you're going to go for a big play Darius Slay there or not. But no. So the Eagles D, 40-1 was that, Stu?
Yeah.
Worth a pound of anyone's money. So that brings us to the last touchdown scorer market. So you'll be shocked to hear the odds for last touchdown scorer are exactly the same as the first touchdown scorer. So you can get 15-2 on Travis Kelce, 8-1 on Jalen Hurts or Miles Sanders, 17-2 on AJ Brown, 11-1 on Devonta Smith or Isaiah Pacheco, 12-1 on Dallas Goedert, Jared McKinnon, and then others are available should you require them. So, as we've had Mark for the first touchdown scorer there last, we'll go to Mark third for the last touchdown scorer. Just to really sort of like play around with the words in everyone's head there.
Travis Kelce.
Interesting. That is not the last time. That is not the last time that Travis Kelce's name will be mentioned. Obviously, Andrew is now spitting feathers. But Stu has also picked Travis Kelce for last touchdown. Am I making the same marks for your name, Andrew?
Travis Kelce. Last touchdown, sorry. Please.
Interesting. I've gone the opposite way on this one. I think this will be where the Eagles are chasing the game. So I've gone for AJ Brown to be the last touchdown scorer.
It's a smart move, that one.
2 categories left. I'll leave the one that the public are all going to be clamouring for till the end. So that brings us to the MVP of the game. Obviously, we'd given out the odds early doors where we'd said Mahomes was the second favourite. Obviously, Jalen Hurts being the favourite. Stu has decided to dive straight in there with Patrick Mahomes as his pick for the MVP. I've gone a little bit out of left field on this one. I've actually gone for Travis Kelce to be named the MVP in this one. I can see it being a game where if Mahomes' ankle is a little bit tripped up, he might be looking to sort of get bailed out every now and again. And who better than his number one target for the last 5 years, Travis Kelce, to bail him out of that particular spot. So I'm going to go for Travis Kelce to have a big day and get a trip to Disneyland out of it. Andy, what have you got for your MVP of the game?
It's Patrick Mahomes for me. I agree, and I think Travis Kelce would, if I was allowed 2 picks, he would definitely be my second pick. I just think, I think when it's if the Chiefs get behind at any point, it's all gonna, all eyes are gonna be on him, and that's the sort of thing that drives that MVP award. So, yeah, I had to go that way in the end.
That just leaves us with Mark. So at the beginning, when Mark made his early season Super Bowl pick, obviously he picked the Chiefs versus the Eagles. He went for the Chiefs to win and Patrick Mahomes to be the MVP of the game. Would you like me to re-put that name in this book right now?
Yes, I'm not changing that at all. No.
That is a sensible pick. If for listeners to the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, this is basically where I'm playing for the points by picking Travis Kelce. So
you'd also be playing for 9-1 if you feel that confident about it.
Well, yeah, that is also true. So, it brings us to everyone's favourite part, the 100-metre dash, if you will, of the Super Bowl podcast predictions. It is, of course, let me just get, I will give it the full title. So, according to Sky Bet, we are now going to predict the winning coach Gatorade shower colour. We have an early selection of red by Mr. Stuart Woodmansey. Odds of 7-1 on that prediction. I'm going to come to Mr. Andrew Cook next, although I'm almost certain he will say a colour that has 6 letters in its tail.
I can only imagine you've already written my answer down. I presume this is just a formality at this point.
Well, you're obviously going for purple, yeah?
I'm obviously going for purple. If there are 3 things in this life that are a certainty, death, taxes, and me picking purple for the Gatorade shower.
Well, if he's that confident, ladies and gentlemen, he'll be putting some money on it at 11-2.
I'm putting my house on it. What are you on about?
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me. Mark, have you got a particular colour in mind, or do you want to give the options?
This is the only one I've really researched in the break, because it's obviously the main one.
Lab. Absolute lab.
I've gone yellow.
Yellow. He's going in with the joint favourite of yellow/green. You get odds of 6-5 on that one.
It's apparently a colour the Chiefs have used this season.
Oh, I mean, it's nailed on then. I have gone for the slightly less favoured orange Gatorade. Some might say it's classic Gatorade colour. I can get odds of 9-4 on it being orange. The outlier for me, which is one I always feel is a little bit of an easy pick, is the clear.
Clear and no shower is always it's always worth
shower.
25p.
No shower, not a market.
Really?
Not a market on Sky Bet. You can only get the colours or clear. No shower, not an option.
Maybe they know something.
There you have it. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is all of our Super Bowl weekend predictions. All that's left is for the thing that has kept most of you coming back week in and week out during the season. It is, of course, the side bet on the podcast. Now, going in to NFC AFC Championship week, the scores were 51 to Mr. Cook, 52 to myself. Andy took the Eagles to beat the 49ers and got himself to 52 points. I took the Bengals to beat the Chiefs and stayed on 52 points, which brings us to the Super Bowl. Now, if myself or Andy had picked the Eagles, this would be incredibly easy, as we would just back ourselves, and then we would have a simple way of making the side bet be done and dusted at the end of the Super Bowl. However, as we have both picked the Kansas City Chiefs, I feel the only fair way to decide who gets to pick first is the coin of destiny. Now this, I will show you. Right, so there is absolutely nothing else in my hand. I've rolled up my sleeves, so there's no funny business, no shenanigans. This is a standard English, British, United Kingdom, whatever you say, 50 pence piece. Tails on one side, head of the sadly now no longer with us Queen Elizabeth II on the other. Andrew, I will give you the chance to call heads or tails. Oh,
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'll give you the choice to call heads or tails, but I'll just take another 20 minutes to find it from down the back of my sofa.
Amazing. Whilst Paul retrieves the coin, or finds another one, either way, has anybody seen that there is currently a petition in play to get Mrs. Kelsey to do the coin toss?
nice.
I think it's up to
Well, Paul's
100.
just, obviously he's lost that job.
So yeah,
I'm surprised that you're still picking. I thought you'd just go based on who was nearest to your score.
I would be happy to do the nearest score wins. Speaking of Mrs. Kelsey, has anybody seen Mrs. Kelsey's jersey for the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
So,
Has
has she gone half and half, or has she gone back, like front and back?
front and back, but the shoulders as well. So one shoulder's Eagles and one shoulder's Chiefs. It in a lot of ways, for that purpose, it is a work of art.
So, slight change of coin, as I can't find that one, as it's now behind the sofa, and it's just going to be all sorts of nonsense to try. So, change of coin. We have a standard 2-pound coin again. The head of the sadly no longer with us Queen Elizabeth II. God knows what the hell that is on the back, but it is the tails. I believe it's something
You've
to do
just
with
lost 50p and now you're going to lose £2.
Hey, listen. Money is no object at this point. All that we care about here is pure fairness in this particular
Money is no object. It's just the hand-eye coordination that's the issue.
Let's see if I can do it again. Oh, right, I've caught it this time. Right, it's in my hand. Do you want heads or tails?
In the words of It's Always Sunny, tails never fails. Balls.
Except today, when it does. Head is the call. So, for the final week of the side bet, I will pick the Kansas City Chiefs. Which does unfortunately leave Andrew with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Andy's inadvertently managed to pull out that whole double bet thing again then, because he's picked the Chiefs for the main part of the predictions and now he's got the Eagles for the side bet.
This guy sees my obvious ploy to get Paul to win a coin toss and pick.
So
it was the magnet outside his living room window that was the
Oh yeah, I just needed to turn that off. It's costing money.
yeah, you all joke, buds. How do you know that wasn't my lucky £2 coin, and that the 50 pence that went down the back of the sofa was not just a decoy, a ploy, as it were?
Well, you've just sold it now, because if you win, then we all know that you've rinsed Andy. So
yeah, and everyone knows that if I do win, it's a tainted victory. So a hollow tainted victory. I hope you're happy, Mr. Williams. You sad, sad little man. Etc. etc. Yeah, that's it. That's all the predictions done. All that's left to say is, wherever you're watching from, if you're watching it live, if you're watching it on delay, if you're watching it on delay, I'd just basically get your TV turned on and then just turn your phone off, because you won't be able to avoid it. You'll get some sort of notification that will ruin it for you. But yeah, wherever you're watching, at whatever time you're watching, enjoy the festivities that will no doubt take place before. Obviously, we have this conversation off air, but Andy sounds like he's been planning the meal for about 6 weeks. So It
Yeah,
sounds incredible.
In the Cook household, the Super Bowl weekend is the official last weekend of any sort of fun.
I was going to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but fun.
It's the last weekend that you can truly let the hair down and cut loose in the food arena. So the menu is carefully crafted by ordering something from a takeaway, and just bags and bags and bags of sweets. But more finesse than that. Definitely not as simple as that. I was gonna, before we went, I was gonna pose the most difficult question of all. What is, if anybody had to go with their number one go-to Super Bowl snack, what was it going to be? Stu?
Nothing screams Americana louder than corn dogs. So it has to be that for me.
Are you making them yourself? Are you dipping them in the glass?
Well, I could make them myself, but I also would like a house to live in afterwards. So we have made them from scratch before, but I do have to admit we've already purchased, and they are frozen ones this year.
I do feel it's the safest option. I always they although it's always fun to do they are a potential death trap. So.
But I've thanks to the help and advice of Mr. Williams, we've never had corn dogs from an air fryer before, so we've got that delight to look forward to.
Ooh. Mark, firstly, will you be watching live and in person?
I will be watching live and in person. Yeah, I've got the day off on Monday, and we have a buffet, an American-themed buffet, so burgers, hot dogs, mac and cheese. Our friends come sleep over as well and watch it. So yeah, it's and then M&M caramels for dessert, because I've got a big bag of them from a friend who's just been to Boston. So
yeah, buddy.
Paul, you can only have one piece of Americana in your house Sunday night. What is it?
So this has always made it slightly more difficult by the fact that I haven't watched it in the house for a number of years now. It's usually watched at the bar or at a bar with a group of friends. So the snack becomes more and more difficult, as it's usually based on whether or not the bar has the kitchen open at the time. I'd be inclined to agree with Stu on the corn dog theme, but only if you can't get some delicious sliders involved. So if you could get some sliders with maybe a little pulled pork or a little brisket involved somewhere, something like that. I'll just sack off the sliders. And let's be honest. Let's just do a fucking barbecue.
Oof.
Let's get the ribs.
Ribs
in the smoker. Ribs in the smoker. Brisket in the smoker. Pulled pork in the smoker. Just basically give me a pig and just cook it.
And there you go. That's the way it should be done. But apparently,
well, before we go, what's your go-to?
I get real twitchy with it, because there's that part of me that wants to let the dog off the chain, let Russ cook essentially, and then there's the part of me that
you're having sandwiches for your Super Bowl.
Then there's that part of me that doesn't want to have to wake up like Monday morning and be like, oh no, it all got real messy. However, I can say with true conviction that if you're not featuring nachos somewhere in the entire proceedings, something's gone wrong somewhere, even if it's a small portion.
Now, I didn't know whether you were going to go with nachos, or I thought you might be tempted to throw out the sort of the outsider bit of the jalapeno poppers.
I love a jalapeno popper, but I think Super Bowl Sunday, my other go-to might have to be, and yes, I will caveat, a vegetarian version, but it would have to be the vegetarian chili dog. Vegetarian hot dog, vegetarian chili, and it has to be some authentic American cheese, some Jack. Get some Jack on the go. So there it is. Can anybody believe that we made it this far through the season? I mean, it was kind of inevitable without world-ending catastrophe, but it's been a longer road this year. So there's that, but somehow it just never feels quite long enough. We will return next week. I am assured that some of the guests that couldn't make it this week will definitely be here next week. So tune in for that. These gentlemen are, of course, invited back to see how their predictions panned out. We can all reveal how many millions of pounds we won on our betting, and I can only speak for myself, but I would presume that Paul would also be here to finish up the season. Because that's right, ladies and gents, the season is nearly over. Thank you to Mark, thank you to Stu, thank you to Paul, and thank you to you for tuning in to listen to us talk about sport that isn't even from our country. Come back next week when we find out who it is that wins between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. But until then, we will say goodbye. See you then. So there we go. That's it. Super Bowl predictions are in the bag. What do you think is going to happen? Who do you think is going to win? Let us know. Jump over to the website, click that email button, drop us a line. Before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave us a review. That helps out as well. That's it for this one. Next time will be the last for the season, so tune in for that one, see what the predictions looked like in the end. Until then, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
This has been another episode of CookieCast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.